Last year, around this time, numerous events occurred, and I've got the information that was available at the time as part of my evidence. I'm not going to check it now because I already know your little psyop is going on. There was a series of deaths that occurred in a very strategic, consistent pattern last year. And part of their deaths reveal A, the murder of Elijah Cummings as a result of a failed attempt to assassinate Mike Pompeo, that I believe he was absolutely involved with, as well as the president and other members of Congress and the Senate. And B, a cover up of attempts to try to launder assets connected to the death of Shimon Peres, which was also an assassination. So, right now, the information is completely mischaracterizing what was available last year. There was the death of somebody that was alleged to have been very important in the Rwanda genocide. He was understood to be a sort of perpetrator of those war crimes, and he finally died. And the problem is, what was happening is somebody wanted to launder his death through what they were trying to do with the laundering of assets connected to Shimon Peres. It was the third anniversary of his death. And somebody was trying to say that because of the fact, let's just put it this way, a certain person was a witness. And as a result of being a witness to elements of his assassination and what that all entailed, that there was a part of his estate that needed to be verified. And because it had been 3 years and it hadn't happened, then it had been abandoned. And because it had been abandoned, it was ineligible for somebody else to claim. Now, they didn't get to do that. Why? Because when they were supposed to confirm that transaction after they laundered whatever they were doing with the death of the African leader alleged to have been involved with the Rwandan genocide, they needed to confirm it in a particular manner, and they didn't do that because something happened. And what ended up happening is there was an announcement that an attorney in India, who was alleged to be a very prominent defender of the public, had died. My understanding is that there was a terminating hedge that fell on India. And in order to protect what they decided was important, they exercised an option that resulted in the death of that defender of the public. I watched it. I had the evidence. I have the evidence. Right now, the information online is almost contrary. They're trying to say that on this date, last year, there was a murder of an opposition to Kagame. That's not what was reported last year. That's not what happened last year. That's what they're trying to say now. In addition, there's no information about that Indian lawyer, that man who was reported to be very prominent. He defended people, including people accused of being involved in high crimes. But he was also known as somebody within the Indian legal system that was considered to be of real merit to the nation of India in terms of his capacity as a legal representative, including as a defender of the public. There's no information about him at all. The references to India right now are totally contrary. And rather, it seems that something is trying to supplant what was identified as an attorney with something connected to the medical sector. And this information about an attempt to use the assets connected to a person accused of war crimes has been flipped to make it sound like he's the opposition. What I think this may be is an attempt to sabotage other people by putting them on some sort of inverse indexing. They do this thing, especially these particular kinds of lawyers. They do this thing where they're like, try on this criminal. Try on this criminal and then flip it. And the more criminal the person is, and the more extreme their crime, the more successful you'll be if you can flip it. So, try on Milosevic, for instance. That's what they tried to do. And I was looking something else up. They kept trying to, I was like, I'm not going to do that. Now I'm supposed to believe that somehow I'm somebody's wife that's under indictment. Well, unfortunately, what you would have to tear anything to that, anything connected to that too, is an intentional effort to gaslight and psyop There's all kinds of stuff that was available last year that was part of public reporting. It had multiple sources of information, and now the record's been overwritten. They're putting completely contrary reference points on these very important benchmarks. When did you do this? Is this a recent thing? Or have you been slowly trying to overwrite history? Is this supposed to be connected to whatever is supposed to be going on with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Because it's at that level, right? So I'm just letting you know that that's not what it was last year. That's not what the evidence says. Last year, the reporting on the specific murder rape racket had identified certain benchmark dates. And in those benchmark dates, there were what I understood were terminal hedges. And who those terminal hedges fell on depended on a variety of matters. Now, there could have been some protection and some forestalling in certain events occurring, but then you'd have to talk to a crazy bitch like me. You'd actually have to acknowledge me. And now you've done what I accused you of doing. You've inverted it. You flipped it. It wasn't an opponent of Kagame last year. That's not who it was. It wasn't whatever the hell else you're trying to say. There's no mention of that guy. There was all kinds of information. The Indian press had information. There was information in foreign publications abroad. He apparently wasn't very well known in the United States, but in other publications abroad, there was substantial information about him. There's nothing. I can't find anything about him. And the date references, there's no date references. You keep going in and messing with dates and trying to mess up timelines. And I'm not going to go open up my evidence and start scouring through it again because I already know you got the computer fucking bugged. But whatever you're trying to work today, whatever scenario, everything about it is completely inaccurate. It's kind of like one of these things, all I can do is let you know, whatever you're trying to do, whoever you are that might see this, you got to understand, they've totally thrown some sort of electronic bomb out there, and they're totally fucking with the information. They're totally fucking with the reference points. And that lets me know that what they're doing is they're hooking up deals today, and then they're going to try to delete the evidence of what they hooked up today, but they're going to try to work scenarios based on what they're setting up today.